Welcome, Rotarians and guests to Rochester Rotary November 10th live and Zoom meeting. My name is Ron Lichtel. I serve as your club president. Would you please all stand and join me on the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in reciting the four-way test of the things we think. Say or do is the truth. Say or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to walk and serve? Build goodwill and friendships. You give us our invitation.
Please pray with me. Father God, we thank you first and foremost for this absolutely beautiful day that you have seen fit to give us, and thank you for the beautiful reminder that we love where we live. We live in a beautiful state, and we have beauty all around us and an extended summer to enjoy for the next few days. Thank you for giving us people who are willing to serve in our armed forces. And as we approach Veterans Day tomorrow, we wish your blessing upon those that have served and that are serving right now. And we ask you to keep them out of harm's way. And if they're in harm's way, please keep them safe and under good direction. God, most of all, that's on my heart today is I ask for peace to be restored in our country and unity, and in most humble prayer, please let our friendships and our families who have drifted off to one side or the other, please find a way that we can each feel a sense of reconciliation and remember that we're all your children, and we're all brothers and sisters in love. And bless the food we're about to eat, and also the hands that make we pray. Amen.
Here's your pen. So there's applesauce in your pen.
Mr. Stewart's here. Who was the 15th COVID check?
Mr. Roger Roller.
Hey, Roger. Jeff Whitby, you want to introduce our guest today?
Good afternoon. Welcome to the greatest club on earth. Bring some guests next week.
I guess we didn't have anybody. All right. We have any happy bucks? Ronald McDonald.
I have a memory buck that I usually say this time of year, although we usually do it in May. So I like to remember my great uncle who was killed in action in 1864 in the Shenandoah Valley, fighting for the 116th in New York. And I'd also like to remember my fraternity brother, Kevin Flaherty, who was killed in 1966. And I know Pop in Vietnam. So it's Veterans Day. I know it's not Memorial, but I do want to recognize those people, because if I don't remember them, who is going to? Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. That's just
passing along a happy buck from Kyle, who's happy to be back from Florida, and one for me. My son turns 3 today.
Past the terrible twos and into the terrible threes. Anybody else?
I've done this before, but I think about who influenced my life the most, and it was my father, who sent the farm girl to Michigan State to get a degree. And that was unheard of. I was supposed to marry a farmer and stay on the farm. So, yeah, Harlan was very effective in creating me going to Michigan State and getting a degree.
Anybody else?
to him celebrating a son who was having a birthday. It's kind of a, I don't know if it's a happy book or sad book. He turned, now he's old enough to be a member of the OPC. So I got one myself. My wife and I are going to celebrate December 30th, our 50th. And my son, who I get to see, he's a pastor of Church Northwest Minnesota, 49. And every 2-3 years, he's coming in with his whole family, and we're going to have a big celebration. So that'll be great. Yeah. Somebody says married 50. Well, I got married when I was 8. Club announcements. There's a congratulations going out to Mark Tisdale for being elected state rep. He emailed me and wanted me to thank all of you who supported him. And again, a reminder, next week will be our vote on the club constitution. And I've got a Mr. Ron DeLitto has something to discuss with us. Thank you, Ron. He warned me I better let him up here for 5 minutes.
That time of year for elections. My primary purpose here is to talk to you about nominations for the club board and the charities board for the fiscal year that starts July 1st, 2021. We'll have 2 at-large board members to place on the club board and 1 at-large board member to place on the charities board. But before I go into a little more detail on that, I'd like to report to you that we received $1,165 in memorial gifts for our lost Rotarian brothers, Mel Gay and Roger Bird. I can say brothers because they're both males. And that money will go into the Rochester Endowment, the Rochester Rotary Endowment, which is placed at the Community Foundation under Joe Allen. It is the charity board's policy to deposit any memorial gifts in the endowment so they could be forever gifts. The funds in that endowment, the corpus is not spent, only the income on that corpus is spent. So I just wanted to report that to you. That endowment at the moment is about $20,000, $21,000, and not generating a lot of income at the moment, but someday as we build it, it shall. The second thing I'd like to report to you that donations so far to the Rotary International Polio Fund have totaled $2,250. We're not going to send in the check yet because I've had a number of phone calls of people who want to make a donation yet. So I'm waiting, to get those in, and then Christine Haig will send in a spreadsheet that lists the name of every person and the donation amount. And you'll actually get a recognition letter for your donation from Rotary International. It'll take some process of time and things of that nature. Now back to my main topic, and that is elections for board members. For the board, we currently have 4 individuals that have indicated they'd be willing to run for the at-large positions. As you know, there's a procession of people through the board. So Ron Lichtel, who is president, will become past president. And Dave Erdley, who is president-elect, will become president in July. Tim Duncan will become president-elect. Kyle Johnson will move into vice president. Rachel, I'm not sure I pronounced this correct, Aviles, thank you. Okay, Rachel Aviles will become assistant secretary. She has expressed a desire to someday serve as president, and we're looking forward to her working through the chairs. Now, normally the person working through the chairs becomes assistant treasurer. However, her employer has some restrictions on her doing that. So Christine Haig has volunteered to do assistant treasurer for a second year in a row. And that opens the spot, fills the spot there so Rachel can move up. Tom Neville will become treasurer, replacing Vince Matina. Vince said when he enlisted that it was a 2-year tour, and he did volunteer for more, but he's looking forward to the opportunity to pass the baton on to Tom. As I mentioned, Christine Haig will be staying as assistant treasurer. So we got 2 spots open with 4 candidates at this point in time. However, I want to bring to your attention that the floor can nominate, you can nominate others to, so we can bring it. And the way that happens, past presidents get together and suggest names, and we talk to those people, and if they're interested, we put them down. But the general membership has obviously the authority and right to suggest nominees, including self-nomination. So we'll actually have a list of nominees in about 2 weeks. And if anyone here on Zoom would like to self-nominate or nominate someone, please send me an email. If you're going to nominate someone, please make sure that person wants to be nominated, because I will call the person and tell them who nominated the person, and they will come after you if they don't want to. So, any case, joking aside. Now, we have 1 position on the charities board that's opening. Jerry Gross will finish his 3rd year on the charities board as an at-large. And we currently have 1 candidate for the charities board. So if you'd like to serve on the charities board in an at-large position, or know someone that you think should be on that board, again, please email me. I will return in 2 weeks to, 1 election a week's enough, kind of thing. So I'll return in 2 weeks with a list of nominees, and then approximately the 2nd or 3rd week in December, we'll vote. And because we have more candidates than positions, there'll be a ballot, and I'll have to work with John to figure out how we get those people on Zoom to vote. You can't stick a paper ballot in the computer, right, John? Any questions by anybody? Anyways, thank you all for your generosity to the polio fund. Thank you very much. It's one of my heart's desires to see that eradicated, to see polio eradicated. So thank you. It's all yours, Ron. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Steve Baylor here. You got a quick update? And Bill Evans is not here, is he? Okay, because he's the one.
Set of sales, we have 1 week left. We're at about 1,000 plants against a goal of 1,780. So if you have sales and you haven't told us about them yet, please do so. Better yet, turn in your orders and your plans. Our committee went through some statistics from last year, and it was kind of surprising. Last year, we sold 1,780 plants. The top 10 sellers in the club sold 2/3 of those plants. The top 20 in the club sold 82% of the plants. And 55 people in the club didn't sell anything or make any kind of a donation. This year, there are 48 current members, which includes some new members who are on that list of people who haven't made a sale or made a donation. Now, I can understand that when we had the wine taste and the golf outing, that there could be a conflict of interest in terms of, I can't participate in everything. But we didn't have a wine taste, and we didn't have a golf outing. And it's really tragic that if you're a Rotarian, service above self, and you're not contributing to the poinsettia sales this year, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't have 100% participation. And so I'm going to challenge everybody in the club to make a personal commitment to go sell at least 2 plants, or buy those plants, or make a $40 donation, because we need money to give to these charities. And this is our big fundraiser for the year. And to have half of us sitting on our hands while the other half are out there trying to raise the money just doesn't seem right. So again, let's get out there. A week to go. We also have a little bonus that hopefully will kick in some cash, that if you share that barcode, I call it a coupon, but a coupon means something different. Sometimes it doesn't save the purchaser any money, but if they have that barcode scanned and they make a purchase of anything at Bordines between November 30th and December 3rd, in that 4-day window, Bordines is donating 10% of that purchase dollars to the Rotary Club. So we're hoping to get a little, wind in the sails for that. Again, we have 1 week to go, so let's see what we can accomplish there. Any questions? Linda Beesman.
I just would like to say that if anybody has any ideas, like for cold calls, for me, I'll do it. If you have people that you feel uncomfortable about approaching, or just, I don't know, are nervous about whatever, please give them to me. I'll be happy to approach them. It's easy. And I'll tell you, 9.5 times out of 10, they say yes. So, and the no's are always for a good reason. So it's not hard. It's just not hard. Please, everybody, try it or give me their contacts and I'll do it.
Very good. For those who couldn't hear because maybe the Zoom call wasn't picking up the voice across the room, Linda's volunteering that if you have an organization that you think would be a candidate to purchase some plants that aren't really willing or able to make that sales call, pass those names on to Linda Eastman, and she'll be more than happy to make that sales request. I know a lot of the customers that I sold to last year are businesses that put plants in their lobbies, and there's nobody going through the lobbies this year, so they're not buying those plants. Many of those businesses, people in the organization are buying plants for their personal homes and things like that. But there's a drop off in those lobby sales. And I wish I had thought of it when I called on some of these, and I'll probably go back and say, would they be willing to make a donation instead of purchasing plants? Because it's a good cause. Like Linda said, there's very little resistance if you have the nerve to ask someone if they'd like to buy a plant. It's a 95% hit rate. They'll give you something. They'll buy a plant. They'll make a donation. So, any other questions? Very good. Thank you.
One item missed on the agenda, birthdays, member birthdays. Tim Mullins on November 11th, which is tomorrow, and Justin Masters on the 12th. So let's sing happy birthday to the Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarian. Happy birthday to you. $5, please. Rotarian of the Week. I don't know if Bill Ebinger is there on Zoom or not, because he was, and we actually have the real thing with us. It magically appeared. I'm telling you, it's such a deal that it appeared. All right, next, our sheriff, Steve Shettenham.
Well, hi there, folks. Hopefully you can hear me. if someone can just shout out to make sure they can hear me there at the meeting. I apologize for not being there in person, but hopefully, there you go. That's a thumbs up. Hopefully the fines will go just as well from Zoom as in person. So the big news is that obviously the elections are over. Well, okay, maybe they're almost over, but at any rate, hopefully everybody's been gracious in victory and in defeat. Geez, just think a few years ago, we were arguing over hanging chads. Maybe that would be a better thing to argue about this year. So if you've ever known a chad, had a chad's pizza, or if you are a hanging chad, that's a $5 fine. If you still have campaign flags or signs out in front of your house, that's a $5 clean up the yard fine. If you really, really, really miss seeing all of those television commercials, there's just endless one after another commercials for campaigns. There is no fine for you, but you do need some professional help. And so I suggest that you look into that as quickly as possible. Also, I'm looking to see if the mayor can tell us if the recycling points went way up in Rochester Hills based on the amount of ads that we got in the mail for all the candidates, all those pieces of cardboard that got thrown in the recycling bin. That's got to help with the recycling points in the bins. Sports news, I'm sorry if you're a Lions fan, a U of M fan, a Michigan State fan. That's just a $5 misery fine for this weekend. Something to ponder while you're driving around and you see all those masks hanging over the rearview mirror, or as we now call them, the mask hanger. I just wonder if people are going to be better now that they know that that's what that thing is. They're the rearview mirror, if they'll be better when they're backing up. Speaking of masks, if you're considering buying masks and hand sanitizer for everybody on your Christmas list this year, that's a $5 bah humbug fine. Here, in honor or memory of Alex Trebek, who passed away this week, we have a couple of Jeopardy questions. So just kind of shout out the answers if you know them. So under the category of TV misguided, and I will tell you that when this ran, it was a $2,000 category, so there'll be a $2,000 fine for those that know this answer. The clue is Stephen Bochco's 1990 experiment. It featured singing murderers, jurors, and politicians. And remember to phrase your answer in the form of a question. This one's a little tough. What is cop rock? So obviously we know why that was misguided TV. Here's another one. This might be a little better. And I will warn you, these are all related to police. So when you get to write the jokes in that, you get to pick them. So here we go. This was under the category television, and it was only a $200 question. This Don Johnson series was derived from the two-word note by NBC's president, MTV Cops. You people that have been hanging out in Florida should know this one. All right. What is Miami Vice? Boy, you people, your classic TV is not so good. Moving on into holiday news. This week is National Split Pea Soup Week. That's easy to say. That's one more reason to attend a Zoom meeting rather than risk getting a celebratory bowl of pea soup at the live meeting. So if you love pea soup, that's a $5 fine. It's International Accounting Day. So remember to speak kindly to your accountant. He's just trying to cheat you on your taxes. So make sure you help them out. It's also Fancy Rat and Mouse Day. I don't know if you knew that. There's actually a Fancy Rat and Mouse Association. I am not a member. That was founded in 1983. So while I was looking at their website, just remember that if you've ever screamed at a mouse, squealed like a mouse, or used a mouse trap to capture a non-fancy rat or mouse, that's a $5 fine. A couple of things in history to keep in mind. On November 10th, 1975, the Edmund Fitzgerald sank in Lake Superior. So if you've ever sang along with the Gordon Lightfoot song about that, been to Lake Superior, or you just feel you're just plain superior, that's a $5 fine. Tomorrow is the birth of the Marine Corps. I'm sorry, today is the birth of the Marine Corps. So salute your fellow Marines. And also, since tomorrow is Veterans Day, make sure you thank a veteran. And we appreciate your fines. It all goes to charity. And over and out. Thanks.
All right, now it's time for our speaker. And Tim Duncan asked me to introduce our illustrious speaker, Bob Lytle. And he emailed it to me, so it's on my phone, so I got to use my glasses. Bob Lytle, storytelling with hats, a pharmacist and drugstore owner for over 30 years. Bob took up writing as a hobby around 1991. Since then, he has had 8 books published. The 5 Mackinac Passage stories loosely describe his childhood summers in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Bob published his first book in 1995. His first 2 works were selected by the Great Lakes Booksellers Association to be included in their list of the top 10 children's books of the year. Bob continues to write every day and enjoys breaking away to visit schools. His presentations range from reading poems to second grade classes to sharing publishing secrets with college-age English majors. In the older days in Ireland and the Scottish Highlands, the Seneca, the teller of tales, was welcomed with all the excitement and enthusiasm of today's rock stars. The Seneca was treated with honor and respect, for he was one who passed down the traditions and history of the Celtic people's sagas we would today call myths, legends, or even fairy tales. The tradition of the Seneca has all but died out, but here and there around the globe it survives, kept alive and carried by the imagination and talent of a master tale spinner. Both young and older readers are fortunate to have Bob, this modern-day Seneca. When not actively writing or working in a store, he enjoys visiting schools to discuss his stories, history, music, and like the ancient Seneca, telling stories to enthrall young people of all ages. Bob Lytle. Thanks, Ron. That is in part true. I did, just like you asked me to.
Yeah. Writing has been, I'm here really to talk about writing in general, because not everyone has the interest in writing stories, and especially stories that are mainly marketed for youngsters. But I found that's about my level of being able to talk about things. So I've chosen to write poems, and from the time I was a little kid, I wrote poems and songs, and grew up playing banjo and guitar and writing songs and doing things like that. And it wasn't until my dad came to me one time. He was in his early 70s, and he wanted me to help him publish his memoirs. And he had been a teacher, and he thought that it would be something that the rest of my family, the rest of his family, would be interested in knowing about where the other members of the older members of our family came from. So we got together and we wrote this, Life on the Farm. He was born in 1900, and so it was really the first 18 years of his life is what he talks about. And that was really a big event for me, because I'd never done anything larger than writing songs and poems. As my boys were growing up, I wrote, at night something would happen during the day to one of the boys, and I would, instead of having a camera and being able to take pictures of the things that they were doing, I'd write a poem. I've got a few minutes here. I'm going to read one of those. to give you an idea of what that was about. It's called For Each of You. I stay up really late sometimes, writing poems down. I keep them like a diary, so one day they'll all be bound. Then each of you can read them and remember all the times when you were small, too little for to even read the lines. I keep it like a picture book, so someday you'll look back and say, Bo, remember this? Or Jeff, remember that? I hope this helps you remember all your boyhood days real clear. How mom and dad loved you the best and loved you year by year. So that's that. I finally broke down. No publisher is going to want to publish this, thinking that they're going to make money off it. And that's the whole reason why publishers publish things, is that they can make money. So this I had to self-publish, but it was something that I wanted to have my boys remember, and pictures of all the family and events that we've had over the years. So this was only about 3 years ago that I actually broke down and paid to have it published. 3 years ago, I had back surgery, and it was gonna. I knew that it was going to be a long process recovering, physical therapy and so on. I didn't have a whole lot else to do, but once again, I thought I'd like to do what my dad and I did, was write memoirs. And a lot of people have this in mind, and I think it's so many people have told me that, boy, I wish my dad would have done this, or I wish I had done it for my family. And nobody seems to, a lot of people don't actually go through the process. I'll read this little back cover to give you an idea. This one just was, as I say, self-published. It finally came out. The printer, a Rochester printing company, printed it, and of course it was self-published, so I paid to have it done. But with the understanding, knowing that no one no publisher would really consider it something worthwhile. So the back goes, when does a person write his memoirs? To a lot of people, simply to do so seems like one of two things. First, in Bob Dylan's immortal words, he's fixing to die. Well, I'm not. I'm just checking off one of several things on my bucket list. This is a project I thought would be fun, and it has been. When I recover from my back surgery, I hope to be back on my feet soon. With a little luck and a lot of PT, I'll be working at the store and playing for the Grangers. The back surgery and knee replacement recovery period has been perfect for the project. I can't do much else except eat, sleep, physical therapy, and write. The second thing someone might ask is, who does he think he is to suppose that anyone cares? Well, 40 years ago, my dad decided that it would be something that his children and grandchildren might want to know. They might even be of interest to some historians. So with my sister Pat's typing, my dad's brothers and sisters adding their stories, and my editing, he wrote The Lytles, Their Life on the Farm. Having just reread it, I can say that it turned out darned worthwhile. It has documented our family's place in history and been read by many folks who wish they had done the same for their family. That's the introduction to this. And the third type of, besides songs and poems and memoirs, are the stories that I started writing. Actually, it's more like 15 books instead of 8 that have been published, but 10 have been published by traditional means, which means I had to get a publisher and introduce and make the story of such interest that the publishers thought that they could make money at it. So that's the traditional method of publishing. And this one, Journey to Devil's Kitchen, came out in March after 3 years of working on that. So these last 2 books took 3 years. I mean, it takes a lot of time, but it's also time that is, I think, well spent and very enjoyable for me, at least. This third story is a time travel story that goes back to Mackinac Island in 1823. We have at our house, we have a labyrinth. Linda Eastman knows about this. We have a labyrinth that led to this story about 8 years ago. Of grandchildren, 2 grandsons walking the labyrinth. The man that built the house that we now own was a very wealthy banker from Detroit. And he had this house out in Lake Orion that we bought 15 years ago now. And he had several beautiful gardens, and one of them I turned into a labyrinth. And in this first story that I wrote 8 years ago, the kids go back in time. 2 grandsons go back in time, and they become hobos. Live during the Depression. They go back to 1835, and they become hobos. Well, this next story that I wrote in the last 3 years, it just came out in March, which is probably the worst time of any time to promote a book. Right, we worked on it for 3 years. I got the publisher, loves it, and gets it all set and published, and gets the cover and everything gets worked on, and it comes out in March. So I had no chance, no possibilities of going to promote it at schools or bookstores or really anything. Still haven't. This is the first time I've been able to launch. Now here's 8 months later. Anyway, in this story, the 3 other grandchildren don't believe a word of this first story. They don't believe they're 2 gods. They don't believe that there's any such thing as time travel. And so they talk one of the boys into walking the labyrinth again. It's on Midsummer's Eve, which is supposed to be a kind of a spooky time when that sort of thing might happen. So he gets talked into walking the labyrinth on Midsummer's Eve. Well, they go back in time, but not to the Depression. They go back to Mackinac Island in 1823. Now I worked on Mackinac Island for 4 summers, and I've written now. Well, this is the 6th book I've written about kids in Mackinac Island. Great place. If you've been there, it's an unforgettable place. But the kids, the history of Mackinac Island is so involved. There's so many important things about Mackinac Island. It was at one time, believe it or not, it was the real business focal point for not just Michigan, but the whole area, the whole Great Lakes area, because of the fur trading. But the people that were on Mackinac Island in 1823, Bill Beaumont, William Beaumont. I guess I have time to read this a little bit. The story is that they walk the labyrinth, and these kids get to Mackinac Island, and they get not captured, but they join together with this Madame Leframbois. She is this Indian fur trader, very wealthy woman. She has just sold her home, sold her business to John Jacob Astor's company. So she's living in this beautiful home that she has, but her Madame Leframbois is known for her philanthropy especially by taking in the island Indian children who have really no chance at a future in this new country. And she provides education for them, sometimes puts them up in her home. Home is still there, by the way, right on the main drag on the east side of the village of Mackinac Island. The kids have just gotten together with her, and I'll pick it up here. This is from chapter 8. When we were done eating, Madame Leframbois looked at me and said, "Since you are the oldest, Charlie, I will start with you." She led me to the front parlor and sat me down in the closed room. "Tell me, what are you good at doing?" "I don't know about here," I said. "I mean, back home, I help out at our toy store. I run the cash register. Does anyone need a cashier?" She looked puzzled and she shook her head. I took that as a no. My grandpa taught me how to fillet fish. Well, that's a start, she said, but I don't know anyone who needs that just now. Tell me this, what would you like to be when you grow up? I want to be a doctor, I said. She brightened. Well, that will be easy. We have a physician at the fort who could use a helper right now. A thought flashed into my head, 1823. It was right about then that the fur trader guy got shot. Dr. Beaumont? I blurted out. She looked at me doubtfully. You've heard of him? She asked. You say you've just gotten here. How could you have already have heard about our young fort physician? I said before, thinking, he's famous all over the world. She leaned back, looking skeptical. You can't mean our Dr. Beaumont, she said. He's only been here for 3 years. He's hardly done anything to be known by anyone. But yes, I do mean Dr. Beaumont. For the last year, he's been trying to keep a young Canadian voyager alive. Dr. Beaumont has taken the man into his own house to treat him. So with all the other problems at the fort, he will be glad to have all the help he can get. Well, that's of course how William Beaumont became famous, was treating that French Canadian voyager who got shot in the stomach. And the rest is history as far as Dr. Beaumont's research in digestion. That's just one of the characters that these kids are really forced. They can't get back to their own time until they walk a labyrinth or do something to get themselves back into their own time. And it's so one thing after another, but each of the kids meets up and works with one of these famous Mackinac Island residents. So each of these residents, so the story goes on with each of the kids and how they deal with all those activities. Anyway, I guess that's probably about all the time you need to listen to about that. But there's other stories too. This cherry tree is a story about our house in Lake Orion and how we came to get it. It's a cute story. That's it. That's all I got to tell you.
Hey, thanks.
No questions. I got 2 minutes of questions.
Bill Ebinger wanted Rachel Levinas to get that Rotary of the Week award. Oh, he's here? Well, he was apparently at the beginning, and I missed that. And Rachel's also not
All right. Were there any questions?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I never heard you talk about the actual process. I mean, you come up with an idea for a book, and then how does your, you sketch it out and whatever, and then you have a publisher and somebody that checks your own language, your English and all that. Can you describe a little bit about that and how it affects you as the original writer and what ends up published? I mean, how much control do they have over what you want to say?
Well, when you self-publish, they don't have any interest in really what you've written. They just want your money. But that's self-publishing. All the others, when you have an actual mainstream publisher, they have a lot of control. They have got all the control over the cover, and no input at all. And so I'm not happy with most of these covers. There's the ones that my sister was involved with a lot of the artwork for a lot of my stories, and she and I worked together. So I was really happy with her covers. But most publishers and most books don't have any. The author doesn't. In fact, they don't even usually know who the illustrator is. Maybe that came up.
But the story itself, they change that too?
Yeah, they can. Yeah, if it's usually, they've got people who are very adept at knowing what will sell. That's their primary interest is what will sell. If they think that I could add something or delete a part, something that might be they don't think will add to the saleability, then they'll let me know. And I go along with it because they're the ones that are they're paying for the whole process. And so I don't really have a whole lot to say. If they don't like what I've written, then they don't, I never hear from them, first of all. It's a tough process. That's the hardest part of writing, was getting accepted by a publisher. I'm writing a book right now that's a Florida story, and I don't have an agent. I've never had an agent for any of these books, and getting an agent is just as hard as getting a publisher. I've sent out over 200 inquiries to various agents throughout the country, and I haven't gotten one positive response that they even see it yet. So I mean, that's what you're up against as a writer, and especially now with the COVID thing going on. I mean, everybody has with just a fragment of an idea of a story has sat down with their computer and sent it off to every publisher in the country, and so they're just inundated by requests. Any other questions? Thank you for being patient. All right.
Bob, a couple of quick announcements. Bill Evinger wanted Rachel Avilas to be the recipient of our great award here. And my dad passed away, but I have another adopted father, Ray Dorr, that sends me stuff. He said, we were supposed to have a club assembly today. The purpose of the assembly is to provide members an opportunity to ask questions related to the proposed constitution. Does anyone have any questions on the proposed constitution, which we will vote on next week? Everybody's gotten it emailed, and we had copies back here forever. And if you have a question, you're going to have to direct it to my adopted father, Ray Dorr. Any questions on that, or are we going to close this thing out? Meeting adjourned.